Showing on Law Weekly today, a review of the judiciary and the justice sector under this administration. Also on the program, a recap of the top legal stories in the news, plus our interview segment with the President, African Bar Association, Mr. Hannibal Uwaifu. Hello and welcome. I am Shola Shieli. Let's begin with an assessment of the judiciary and the justice sector in the last 1 year. How well did they fare and what are the highs and the lows? We have some answers in this next report. Throughout the election campaigns and since he came to power, President Muhammadu Buhari has consistently proclaimed that one of the main focus of his administration will be the fight against corruption. On this, the president has made good his promise, and his administration has gone after several alleged corrupt persons, with a good number of them standing trial in various courts across the country.
The fear of Buhari is the beginning of wisdom. And those who are not working before, as judges or as lawyers, are beginning to work. And that gives us some level of comfort.
Indeed, the law enforcement agencies also appear to have a new lease of life. And already, the war against corruption has recorded its first casualty with the conviction and sentence of a former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime and Safety Agency, Mr. Raymond Omaseye. Some critics have, however, condemned the administration for not obeying court orders as regards some of these persons. Some have described the anti-corruption war as being selective.
It is never selective. Yes, since Buhari has come into power, nobody has called EFCC to say, stop this investigation, take this name, investigate the person. Never at all.
Apparently worried that these efforts may not yield the desired results, President Buhari at several fora has told the judiciary to purge itself of corruption.
People tend to think that the judiciary is all about the judges. They forget the judges are only one part of the puzzle. It's a whole system. And if the system fails, the judges fail. Right now, the system is failing the judges and failing Nigerians.
Until we pump money and make it priority, maybe declare a state of emergency and do something. So it's all well and good for President Buhari to say, oh, judiciary is my headache. Let him walk the talk.
While the judiciary waits for better funding, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmood Mohammed, has been proactive. The National Judicial Council, which it chairs, recently retired 2 judges on grounds of malpractices, while some others were reprimanded. The 2015 election petitions also kept the judiciary busy. Though the elections were largely adjudged free and fair, no fewer than 297 petitions were filed across the country. One notable highlight of the process, however, was the conflicting judgments from the tribunals and the Court of Appeal, particularly on the use of the card reader machines. The Supreme Court later dealt with these controversies.
All the Supreme Court is saying is that National Assembly, politicians, the executive, take a bill to the National Assembly that will now compartmentalize or that will now integrate the use of card readers with the use of the voters' register. And what the Supreme Court is also saying is that card reader is also supplementary to the use of the voters' register. When you have your PVC, it's because your name is on the voters' register, not because your name is on card reader. Card reader is accessory to the voters' register. And card reader should be a part and parcel of the voters' register. And the part cannot be greater and larger than the whole.
Going forward, stakeholders believe that the government needs to have a specific plan for the justice sector, the police, the prison, and other justice sector institutions.
Because what is currently happening is that when you are doing ACJ, the Criminal Justice Act, and you are fast-tracking trials, all that is happening in the Ministry of Justice. There's no corresponding development of prisons to hold those that could be convicted.
Intelligence-led policing, healthy respect for human rights, community-based policing. All these are issues that we have put on the table, under his administration, and I can say that we've achieved it, but we are still not there.
Taking forward reforms in the sector will require more than the Attorney General. The President had to lead. Not only do we have these 3 arms of government, executive, legislature, judiciary, that needs to be carried along, even within the justice sector, within the justice institution. There are multiple institutions. So if the president is not interested, it's not going to happen.
The justice sector is key to the president's agenda of corruption, economy, and security. And the sooner it is given the priority it deserves, the better for the nation. Welcome back. Let's turn our attention now to the courts for a recap of some of the top legal news.
A non-governmental organization, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, last week commenced contempt proceedings against the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and the Accountant General of the Federation, Alhaji Ahmed Idris, for their alleged failure to publish the details of the recovered loot and how the funds were spent. The NGO had obtained a judgment from a federal high court in Lagos ordering the federal government to give detailed information on the total amount of recovered stolen public assets, the amount spent, and the details of the projects on which such stolen public assets were spent. For failing to obey the judgment, however, SERAP says it has filed Form 48 at the Federal High Court. In the Form 48, the NGO submitted that unless the orders of the court are obeyed, the Attorney General and the Accountant General of the Federation shall be liable to be committed to prison for contempt. At the Code of Conduct Bureau in Abuja, the trial of the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, on charges of false and anticipatory asset declaration is to continue on June 7. The federal government is prosecuting Senator Saraki on 16 counts of the alleged false and anticipatory asset declaration in the forms which he submitted to the Code of Conduct Bureau between 2003 and 2011 when he served as governor of Kwara State. The trial was stalled last week Wednesday following the absence of the first prosecution witness, Mr. Michael Wetkas, who was appearing as a witness in the trial of the immediate past governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, before Justice Adeni Ademola of the Federal High Court in Abuja. The Code of Conduct Tribunal last week Thursday fixed June 30 to deliver judgment in the trial of a former minister of the Niger Delta, Godste Orubebe, on one-count charge of false asset declaration. A date for judgment was fixed after Orubebe testified as the second defense witness in his case. He denied the charge that he failed to declare the property at plot 2057 Asokoro District, Abuja, in his asset declaration forms submitted to the Code of Conduct Bureau as minister between 2007 and 2011. The former minister also said the plot of land was allocated to him by the federal government through the then minister of the Federal Capital Territory in 2011. He explained that he did not declare it as his asset when he assumed office in 2007 because it had not been allocated to him then. He also said he did not declare the plot of land as his asset in 2011 because he had sold it to his landlord before he made his last asset declaration. The Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos last week Tuesday set aside an order for the winding up and forfeiture of assets of Berewa Pharmaceutical Company, a company involved in the sale of a contaminated baby teething mixture, My Pikin, which resulted in the death of a number of babies in the country. In a unanimous judgment read by Justice Chinwe Iyizoba, the court set aside the decision of the Federal High Court in Lagos, which on May 17, 2012, ordered the winding up of the company and the forfeiture of its assets to the federal government. The court, which instead ordered the company to pay a fine of 1 million naira, further held that what the trial judge ought to have done was to have ordered forfeiture of the contaminated drugs and not the company, as it did not have the power to do so. The Court of Appeal, however, upheld the judgment of the trial court, which sentenced 2 employees of the pharmaceutical company to 7 years imprisonment each for selling the contaminated teething syrup, My Pikin. And we round off with the report that a special court in Senegal has sentenced a former Chadian military ruler, Hissène Habré, to life in prison after convicting him of crimes against humanity, torture and sexual slavery. The verdict last week Monday caps a 16-year battle by victims and rights campaigners to bring the former leader to justice in Senegal, where he had fled after being toppled in a 1990 coup in the Central African nation.